as we move more and more information online, the internet is becoming, if it hasn't already, the primary source for most people to research things. And so it's gotten to a point where almost all of us, whenever we need to find anything, our first place we look is Google or some other search engine online. And so it's critical that students and adults learn a few tricks or a few key things about how to assess information you find online for how relevant it is or how accurate. And so what I have here on the screen is a example of a URL or a web address. And a few things that we can glean from this by picking it apart will help us to understand where a lot of websites that we run into are coming from. So, the first part of any web address is HTTP. Now, sometimes there's an HTTPS. The S means secure, and if you're ever going to submit any kind of credit card information on a website or any real private personal data, you want to make sure there's an S on there because that means that your information is protected. But this basically tells the computer to go out on the internet to look for what follows. Now, a lot of websites have the www, which stands for World Wide Web, but it's become that's kind of being dropped recently. Recently, we've realized that there's no need to have that when every single website has it. So it's generally assumed that if this isn't there, that we're going to look on the World Wide Web for resources. Now the next part is so this is ICTL. This is the domain name, and then that's followed by a suffix. And in this case it's .org, which stands for organization. Could also be edu for education, or .com or .net. And so you can understand a little bit about what the web address is based on this little piece of information. Now, if a website is hosted outside of the United States, it will usually have an additional suffix, a country code. So this website is from the UK, and it's always a 2-digit country code. And then what follows after that is a file or a folder path. So on this server, where this web address is right here, there's a folder called U102CG, and then within that folder there's a file called page22htm. So this website is this file located in this folder on this computer on the internet. Now, that's not necessarily enough for us to know what this is. So actually, to show you what this is this website. This is a website that talks a little bit about assessing, or talking about website suffixes. So, AC Academic, Biz Business, CO Commercial, COM Commercial, EDU Educational, and so on and so forth. Now, we can kind of take a hint if we're looking at a website from this information, this suffix, as to whether or not information is more or less credible. Typically, anything from a .gov or a .edu will tend to be more credible than something from a .com or .net. But that's not always the case. You may have some radical professor somewhere posting information that's not universally accepted as true on a university website. In that case, it would get this suffix, even though it might not be great information. Same thing with government. So here we have country codes, and there's plenty of resources out there for learning what the different country codes are. All you have to do is do a Google search for website and email country codes, and you'll get a great list.
We'll type in Martin Luther King just Martin. And how many do we get? Some reasonable number. 4 million. That's reasonable. But no one's going to look at 4 million, are they? Do you know what the research says people look at? And it says the web address is martinlutherking.org. Attention students, try our pop quiz. Do you see the address? Internet's dangerous. So, I'll ask kids, who put this on the internet? Well, the first thing kids do is look at the web address. Right? Look at the web address. And they'll say it's the Martin Luther King organization. Do you see at the top? By the way, I'm going to show you who put this on the internet. Another website the same group owns. They own a couple of websites. They own this one, White Pride Worldwide. Stormfront. We go to another one called EasyWhoIs.com because it's easy to use. EasyWhoIs.com. And in EasyWhoIs.com, I'm going to look at the application of who applied for that web address. But here's the application. This web address, named martinlutherking.org, was granted on January 14, 1999. And it's owned by Stormfront. Palm Beach, Florida. There's his email address. I got it. But I think cross-referencing and learning to validate information is a really important skill.
So that's one way to assess a website. Another way to assess a website can be to look at who's linking to it. Sometimes, it's important. The connections oftentimes online are as important as the content. So let's look at. We'll go back to the website that we were just using. So this might not work. There we go. In Bing, these are all sites that link to that website. So, this can also be useful if you have a really great site and you're looking for more information about the same topic. Oftentimes you can find other really high quality information by looking to see who else is linking to that. So you may find like-minded people that way, or like-minded articles or websites.
If you do not know who controls the information you access, I think you're in trouble. Especially if you think the top of Google, the very first result when you type in Martin Luther King, and you don't know how Google works, I can tell you that the average student in this country only looks at the first screen of results. Watch your kids. Go home. Watch your kids use Google. See how often they go past the top screen.